David begins to learn that the symptoms of his illness are really the manifestations of his abilities. And he and Sid have a romance of the mind. It's the FX original series, Legion, Chapter 2. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Legion. So, of course, we are entering spoiler territory. This is your warning. Alright, so really enjoying this show. You know, I have to say, coming especially into the first episode, really just seeing the previews and their very artistic presentation, wasn't entirely sure how this story was going to be told, what take they were taking on it, where they were going to be going, in effect. But definitely with the opening of this episode, it really starts to put everything into focus. This is a hero's tale. This is your classic origin story of the unexpected hero pulled out of his mediocrity, his unknown circumstance, where his curses ends up being gifts, and now he has to learn how to train with them, become proficient with them, and then go out and achieve great things. And I'm putting this in a storytelling type mode because it's really, again, how this episode opened up, with drifting down the river and the trees in the background, the kind of foggy atmosphere, and that whole narration that David is saying as we're fleeing and entering into Summerland, being pursued by dogs and the eye and the forces of evil. I mean, it's a very storytelling, very fairy tale type of storytelling. And it really gives a nice element to it. Again, especially since there is that sort of timeless quality. Most of the art is very mod 60s-ish. But throughout, however the presentations are, all of the technology, everything is really mixed up. It gives it that timeless, unspecific quality to it that I think just adds to a lot of the color and artistry. It allows them to use a lot of those very big, bold colors, the greens and the oranges and everything, and the fantastic large shapes. I mean, even the swing when David goes out there and he's talking with Sid is just these two like large circles and this one bar over. I mean, they're just quite impressive from the architectural and art standpoint, and it really just adds that mythic quality to this show. But as we were saying, wasn't entirely sure how this story was going to develop, and they really do jump into a very straightforward origin story, you know, training to learn our powers. Ms. Bird jumps in, Melanie jumps in right in very quick, talking about, you know, we are the next evolution, the humanity's evolution, and we are being pursued by forces that want to study us or kill us, and we are here to learn your powers and abilities. So they lay it out very straightforward where this story is going, and I think that's really, again, what we're going to catch throughout most of at least the first part of the arc of the series, and maybe through this whole season, is really David diving into his memories, learning how he became who he was, how his powers manifest, and then starting to learn how to actually do those by himself. And he starts that very quickly. Under his excellent tutelage by his new Professor X, I'm sorry, Ms. Bird there, who is playing the teacher role, helps him very quickly. And I love that they are really moving forward. They're not spending a lot of time on this stumbliness. They're moving it at a quick pace. He really starts to learn how to tune in and then drop out everybody else very quickly to grab onto his powers. And you can see especially those first stages quite difficult because he's also off his meds. So not only is he going through those physiological changes, but now he's getting that onslaught of new information. So these definitely first couple episodes are going to be a lot of the clearing the body of the old stuff and then learning how to manifest everything else. So part of his training to use his powers involves going back into his memories, exploring his past, seeing where his original motivation, manifestation of his powers came in and how those might have been misinterpreted and then assigned as mental illness. What were the traumas in his life? It's your standard kind of like going back and clearing out your closets type approach, but they do that in a really cool way. With Ptonomy's powers, of course, is diving into the mind, manifesting that kind of real memory that you can walk and explore. And I love their whole concept of you have your memory time and then you have your talk time. You have Ptonomy taking you back into your memories, and then you have Melanie Bird talking you through what those all mean. Very comprehensive, mental health approach, really. Again, just really done very well how they tell these stories. And of course, the big bit that he runs into really initially on that is his relationship with his father. You have the two main aspects of it. One, the fact that he can't see his father. And then when he tries to, the memories start to sort of vibrate and go out of sync. His anxiety starts to overload Ptonomy's ability to manifest these memories. And every time he runs into these sort of personal trauma moments, that's what seems to happen. Even Ptonomy later in the second time, when they went back to him in his bed as a youth, said, hey, I was trying to get you back to the scene where the knives were all throwing in the kitchen with his girlfriend freaking out and all of that, where they were trying to get to, but Ptonomy couldn't move that because David doesn't want to see that right now. He's not in the place to investigate those memories right now. His first trauma that he's dealing with is from his childhood and that very creepy book. The world, that's so wrong. But that's the two ideas. Is you have the father who was an astronomer, and then you have the book. And those are two the main manifestations. The book, if that actually is what he was read, Ptonomy is right, that is a horrible thing to read to a child. But I think the book is sort of an allegory, kind of like the whole stars and traveling out. My first guess, of course, is that he was an abused child. His father abused him. Father, stepfather? Not sure. Again, they're dumping the mutant thing. They're dumping into David Halloris, or they're going to have that this actually wasn't his father. This was his stepfather, because his real father is a bald guy named Charles Xavier. Who knows if they're going to go that way. But I think that this is indicative of an abusive childhood. That's going to be my first off. Maybe those late night trips out to these stars, or where these things happen. That's also where these stars spoke to him, and that became that other that other bit of sort of memory anxiety manifestation. So the idea is, is that where he was abused, or, and this is kind of a stretch, but I'm going to go this way because it was suggested last week, and I love the idea. This ties into that yellow-eyed demon. When the stars spoke to him, were they actually speaking to him? Is that sort of the sign of him perceiving into other dimensions? And the reason I say that is we have the yellow-eyed monster. We don't know who the yellow-eyed monster is. We don't really have as much information. It is definitely a manifestation of his anxieties whenever he's not feeling comfortable, whenever he is diving into some memory or some idea that he is uncomfortable with. That's when the yellow-eyed demon comes out. So it can merely be a manifestation of his anxieties. Or it could be Mojo. The great transdimensional reality producing mutant lover extraordinary, Mojo from the X-Men comics. Transdimensional being likes to bring people up into his world of television reality show that he plays for the masses upon his planet in a far-flung dimension. I know it's a risk, but I have to throw that out because I really part of me loves that idea. And he does have sort of a whole Mojo look going on right there. Not Mojo Jojo. That's Powerpuff Girls. Just Mojo. Now, Lenny, of course, is back, and her appearance is, to me, kind of a sign of something else going on. The reason I throw this in is we have these scenes where David seems to be going back in his memories, back when he was still seeing his psychiatrist, when he was still out on the street and not yet in the hospital. But that Lenny is his buddy then. Hanging out, getting drugs with, trying to overcome the constant voices. It's the only escape that he's able to find is take some drugs, at least shut out the voices for the moment. And Lenny is sort of his partner in crime. But she was also in the hospital with him. And I find it odd that you would have your friend on the streets be in the same hospital you are. That doesn't really seem to make much sense to me. Which means There are two ways to think about this. One, that the current Lenny is just a manifestation in his mind. In these memories, Lenny is a projection of his mind. She doesn't actually exist in those memories. When they actually happen, she wasn't there. She is being inserted into his memories, kind of like how Sid was inserted into his memory before, but that was an intentional projection. This could just be him going through it. And the reason I say that is because nobody else is with him in these memories. Both of these times when he is thinking about Lenny back in the day is when he is by himself. He has lost consciousness either when he was in the machine or when he had sort of blacked out after that initial memory trip. So it's not like Ptonomy or Melanie or Sid was there with him. So this could easily just be his own projection manifestation. The other thought that I might have had is that she doesn't exist at all, and any time that we have seen her, she is only a manifestation of his mind, kind of like Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense, how no one else can see her, except that she does interact with both Sid and Dr. Kissinger in episode 1. When Sid is leaving, she asks her for the candy bar, and she does talk to Kissinger saying, "Give us a moment, it's girl talk." So she does seem to be manifesting in right there. Then, of course, there is his and Sid's relationship, which is so cute. I thought it was cute last week. I still think that it's cute. One, I love the idea that her first thought was to go back and get him. That their relationship is real. It felt that way, but there's always that kind of idea is he just being used in order to get his powers? That doesn't seem to be the case. She really does love him. And they've got such a cute kind of relationship, and the idea of there's obviously that attraction, there is that caring, but because of her powers, they can't touch. So as David proposed, they're having a romance of the mind, and I thought that was just beautiful, wonderfully put. And she's definitely going to be the balance for him. You can already see that in this episode as he goes through she's part of the process. She's the anchor. Strong emotional connection to someone allows an anchor, especially when there is truth in that relationship. So he can do this exploration, he can even talk about it, but to really assimilate it into himself, it's going to take her care and her attention. And it was also great seeing her perspective from what happened after the kiss. And I could, the fact that their powers are manifested in their bodies, so when their psyches switch, she actually felt the manifestation of his powers in his body, I thought was just a great way to give an outside voice to what he experiences. How much all of the noise and the color and everybody yelling, and you can imagine her just jumping in from a normal person to suddenly having this sort of psychic onslaught going on, and then her natural reaction, to which David just forgives her for. Of course, it's not her fault about killing Lenny. Even Lenny's ghost said it. All right, you can't give someone a rocket launcher and then be upset when there's destruction. It's just, you can't do that. But it was also very cool when she was in the car that they thought that that Melanie and the rest of, I'm not sure what we're going to call this hero group, came to get. They thought they were coming to get David, and they got her instead. Wonderful shot, too, of just looking at him and then spinning around the car, seeing everybody, and then coming back and it being her. It was just a perfect mirror for what we saw in the first episode when David switched back into his body sitting there at the table. So I thought that was very cool, very nicely done. It's good to see the other side of that relationship, of that particular experience right there, and how that now manifests in the evolution of their relationship, because now there actually is someone in the group that really knows what he goes through and thus can help talk him through getting better. But also in that experience, she saw what he saw, but also saw the yellow-eyed monster, which is why I start to wonder, is that a manifestation of his anxieties or really something else? It's Mojo. I don't know if that's true, but it'd be cool. And then finally, that relationship with Sid, that anchor, is what is going to allow him to really move forward with strength. Because, of course, when he is in the MRI machine, God, that was cool when he just sort of beamed it out of there. It was just awesome, great storytelling. And of course he does it under extreme stress when he's seeing the yellow-eyed monster there. But he can take that moment, accept the reality of who he is, even for that moment, just hear his sister's voice and then project himself into the hospital. That was awesome. That is such a cool next level. Now, whether he's actually there or it's a mental projection that maybe even only she could see or that he could just see himself, that doesn't matter at the moment. We'll see where that's all going to go. But this is, again, being that early sign of him intentionally, calming his powers down and then manifesting them in a new and even unexpected to him way. It motivates him to do the Luke Skywalker bit. I've got to get rid of, I can't train anymore, I have to go and save my friends off of Bespin. Luckily, Sid's a little more convincing than Yoda was. And with that great line when he asked, I want to be sure, how can you tell me that she's not going to hurt, that they're not going to hurt her? Because she's the bait. She gets it immediately. Of course they're going to follow her. They're your sister. They're going to put her in trouble. They're going to flush you out that way. And he gets it immediately off of her also. And that's what turns him around to go, all right, I'm going to have to stay here and I'm going to have to train. It was perfectly done, beautifully handled, and the chemistry between the two of them really sold that moment. And he's going to need to learn to do something really quick too, because his sister's definitely in trouble. She is in a very, very uncomfortable and unsanitary looking room with the eye, I'm assuming is just the mutant hunter there, and a fish tank full of swimming worm snake things. Whenever you have worms, it's not good, just from a visual standpoint, just snakes, whatever the heck they are, leeches. It's not good. We don't feel good inside when we see that. And I don't think they're going to end up very well for her. So time is ticking away. And just a couple of things real quick. Dr. Bateman's advanced time travel class has been canceled. It was in the background there when David first woke up from the first memory adventure. Just cool. Where else are you going to hear something like that except in a mutant training camp? Nowhere. The amygdala is the part of the brain that controls emotions, survival instincts, and memories. Doc was saying that we needed to look in and find out where his memories are, so it makes sense that the amygdala is going in. But survival instincts, emotions, that's a lot of stuff all caught up in there. So you can see where trauma, emotion, all of that linked in with memories is going to be pretty powerful. Ptonomy said that David is the key to winning the war and other things. It's the other things I'm really curious about. The war is obviously the war of humans versus mutants. The other things, that's much more interesting. All right, so I think that's going to wrap things up for this week. Now, David, he's got a lot of training ahead of him. His sister is in trouble. He's got to get it together, save his family. Find out about his trauma, find out about that yellow-eyed demon and what's going on. We've got many, many more episodes ahead of us. We've got quite a journey, and I am already looking forward to next week. Hope you are too. So if you didn't enjoy this review, please go ahead and hit that like button. Comment section below. What do you guys think? Is it Mojo? What else could that yellow-eyed demon be? And who is the rest of the division? Who else might David be fleeing from or encountering in the future? And is everything great with Melanie Bird and everyone there? Or is there some other agenda on their side that's going on as well? Any thoughts and ideas? Throw those down in the comments section. All right. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes. But if you are not a subscriber, come on back. Don't miss anything. And you won't if you hit my little face right there. That's the subscribe button. Come back, check out everything we are doing. And I'll throw up our latest review right up over here so you won't miss anything. Get a little sample of everything we do. All right. So I am D, and I am out of here. I'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy. Bye-bye.